Welcome everyone back to Forward Operating Base Lake Fork. I am Greg Hill. I'm your host of your fishing show today. And look, it's finally spring here on Lake Fork. That is the good news. The great news is that we've got some really good weather. I was out today fishing a little bit, doing some scouting around for some more trips I have next week, and had a chance to kind of really go into some areas I hadn't been into in a while because I wasn't booked today, so I had a chance to go out by myself. So first, I need to apologize for being missing from YouTube for so long. I had a really terrible technical issue that happened with my new camera. Got this new GoPro Hero 9, thought it would be great. And for some reason, as soon as I got it, the codecs of it wasn't working with the computer that I owned. And then the software had changed for doing the editing. So I ended up having about 12 videos that were, when I would edit it and try to post it, when they would, I guess, merge everything together, or look, I'm not that technical. I'm a Harrier pilot in the Marines, but I guess I'm not that technical. But the videos ended up looking like some type of poorly dubbed foreign movie where the voice doesn't match up with the sound at all. And just quite frankly, I couldn't put it on YouTube. I was thinking about it anyway, but I just couldn't do it. It looked terrible. So hopefully this one's all worked out and we've got to the point where we can fix it. I had somebody take a look at it for me, and hopefully that's going to make it work. But I wanted to go into the fishing, for the spring and talk about what's been going on here on Lake Fork. Of course, everyone knows about the water level being low, and everyone had a big question on how that was going to affect the spawn. We've had really cold weather at nights. We had like 1 or 2 warm days, and then we get really cold for 2 days. So every time that I think the fish started thinking about coming up on the lake, the cold water was just driving back out the next night. I'm sitting in an area right now where I'm about 20 feet from a bedfish as we speak. I just hooked it and brought it in, and he's back on his bed already. And this is a brand new fish that's on bed right now, because I've been fishing in here for a bit, and there's been some other fish that are spawning here, but I know for a fact that this fish is a brand new fish on bed. And I posted some stuff on Instagram. My Instagram stuff has been running, but in my Facebook, but I just couldn't get the YouTube stuff working. But so, like I said, it's 75 degrees here now. I'm in many coves, documenting how the water was warming up, but the water is so much lower. The bass are doing something this year. I've seen it on my live scope before, but never had a chance to really see in person what was going on. The water is so low that these fish are completely out of their reeds. There is absolutely no grass that I've found that they're bedding in. So in reaction to that, in response to that, the fish are acting probably how they're, instinctively they've probably done in other places. So they are actually digging holes in the ground, and they just look like big black circles when you see them. Normally when we were fishing for bedfish, you'd see some cleared area in the grass. These are deep dug holes. Some of these holes are so big that the fish actually disappear down into. They can swim down inside these holes. I had a chance on one occasion to watch a fish building one of these, and what they'll do is they'll take their head and they'll stick it down in the mud, and they swim around in a circle, and I guess they just slowly stir the sandy, muddy bottom, or they slowly push the mud aside, and they just make it bigger and bigger and bigger. I watched a fish for about 20 minutes do it. I had never seen it in person. I mean, I've seen fish tail up before doing something on the bottom, but had never had such a quite clear view of what they were doing. And then I had a chance to see that fish over the next, couple days and what it was doing. And sure enough, it had built a hole that was so big and so deep that it could swim down inside of it. So I've never seen that before. I know in my side imaging, I've seen these larger circles in some of these small areas before, and I figured that's what they probably were. But you just never know. I hear a little background noise here from the trucks, but that's okay. I'll let it pass. So just going back into the spring and what's been going on, we caught a lot of big fish this season already. I got to tell you, about 80% of those larger fish that were caught on square bill crankbaits, and they were red square bill crankbaits, and they were caught on If you saw my Instagram, you saw me posting it, so it's not a surprise, but I'm just updating YouTube here. Those were pretty much all pre-spawn fish. They were pre-spawn females staged in these areas where they were going to be spawning next to trees in 8 feet of water. They were usually about 3 or 4 feet down. We could catch them on square bill crankbaits. We could catch them on chatterbaits. I'm going to show you some of these lures I've been using now and in the past week or two, and I'm going to talk about what I see happening in the next week. But just going back, larger fish being caught, and I know I have some other friends that they've been catching a lot on some Carolina rigs and dragging Senkos. I've drug a lot of Senkos through areas and got some bites on them, 6-pounders or so, but I'm still elusively chasing a 10-pound fish this year. Still haven't seen one. Biggest one is around 8.5 this year. So just haven't seen the really big fish, and I don't know whether it's got to do because having to reorient myself to what the fish are doing with this new lower water. So my normal places I would go fish for spawn fish. I mean, I love bed fishing. I have great vision, and I can pick out the tiniest little things to see these fish. And I really have been doing it. I'm still doing it right now, but I will tell you, there's not as many in a place I think I've been visually catching them. It just hasn't been. They've been a little bit deeper. You can't be able to see some of these fish, and I've had to rely on my live scope to catch a couple, and I did that yesterday, going through the same bed areas and using your forward-looking sonars to see these fish on bed, and then kind of working them, because you can kind of tell they're in one spot. They're always coming back to it. So I'll talk about that. So anyways, let's talk about just the basics of what I've seen with the weather here. Hey, we've got a ton of wind this April. Oh my gosh. If you haven't been trying to fish windy points, you haven't been trying to fish on the lake. 10, 15, 20 knot, 25 knot winds on the lake. And it's just been really a challenge to fish part of the lake. I've had some of my customers that are some older gentlemen that, quite frankly, it just was too rough for them to be on the water and canceling a couple of trips because of that. It's not that the older guys can't take it, but look, the younger guys are more up for getting wet and getting beat up a little bit and go out and fishing it. So some of my older clients, look, they're just having a hard time getting around the boat. It can be a little dangerous for them to be in some of those high winds and high waves. So I've had to kind of cancel some trips because of that. So, and look, I'll just go back and say that we always be cautious on the lake here. Pay attention to the weather. We had a visiting fisherman die here on the lake just a couple weeks ago. Now that day I was fishing and I took my clients out and I wanted to run into the very part of the lake where this person was killed. I wanted to go there, but I said, look, we're gonna have to fish in the local area because within about 2 hours of us getting started, there's a line of thunderstorms that are gonna be passing through, and we're not gonna want to be out, and it's got a lot of red and orange in it, from the weather radars. And so, I'm very lucky because with my property, I can always just come to our property and put the boat up on the lift, and we go up to the house and we, have a cup of coffee, and sit the storm out. That's what we did in this case. So while we were sitting the storm out, drinking some coffee and just talking, a gentleman and his son were still on the lake over another part of the lake in an aluminum boat, and it was struck by lightning, and one of the older person died. So, no one wants to die bass fishing. So I've had another friend that was killed a long time ago because the motor hit something in the area, and kicked up into the boat. But always be careful out there. Look, there's not a fish out here that's worth getting killed for. So make sure you're paying to the weather. Make sure you're paying close to those weather radars. Make sure you're watching the thunderstorms as we come through this time of the year. As we get into the summer, there's going to be more of them. So just watch it, please, and be careful out there on the water. Okay, so I'm going to get into some of the fishing that I've been doing and some of the lures I've been throwing over the past pretty much month. I won't go back any further than that. It's kind of a waste of time. But and what lures I think will come up in the May time period. So not in any particular order, but hey, I talked about red crankbaits. Now you can see this crankbait. I mean, it's a crawfish color, and I put a picture on my Instagram paper that had a crankbait sitting right next to a crawfish. You can see almost exactly they are, but look, this thing's been thrown so much that I've worn off the paint. on the thing this year. This thing is responsible for a lot of big fish during this season. It's just a shallow running square bill crankbait. It runs around 5 feet deep without working. If you put the rod tip down, I can get down to almost 6 and 7. So generally speaking, I was running around with some crankbaits at that time. They could run down to 7 or 8, and this one run to 4 to 5-ish. I could make them run deeper, make them run shallow, but that's where it's holding my rod tip, and I could work these fish that were sitting alongside these trees. And you'd work them through there and catch the fish. It was in muddy water, so you had to reel in kind of slow. You had to surge it to get their attention, and then work to a slow. But man, the square bill crankbait, the red one this year, has just been a performer. And last year it wasn't as much of a performer for me, but this year it's been a performer. So jigs, I got a couple different jigs. This one is a kind of a purplish color. And I'll either throw it with a black and blue trailer. This is just a tiny little, blue, black trailer, But I'm always putting scent on my lures, and I think scent matters. It'll do that last maybe quarter inch of the bite. When the fish is just staring at it, maybe gets a scent. You can do that, so just think about that. That's one thing I've been throwing on beds. Some of the beds, you throw a couple lures on there, and you get just an instant reaction from them. Sometimes you don't, and you'll cycle through these baits. And I'm just going to cover a couple of the baits I've been throwing in the beds. Now you'll notice this is look, it's a trick worm. It's what's mine with it. Just really bright color, helps you see it, helps the fish see it. And you'll see I've got this on a big hook though. I've got this on a full row stout hook, and I just actually hook it through there. And I think the bright color lets them kind of not see the hook as much. But that heavy hook will allow you to get that hook set into a big fish. And I've been catching fish on that, 3 or 4 feet away from them in the water, in this muddier water, and probably 6 to 7 feet. Drop it down to them in a brush pile. If I'm on a bed, I'm throwing that basically around the bed, and it's in 2 to 4 feet of water for the most part. I'll just work it in their bed, let it sit there, and let them pick it up. But you can get a good set off those big hooks. I know a lot of people use the smaller hooks, and I do too. This is just currently what I've got on there right now. I've thrown some smaller, kind of like wacky rig hooks. They're the circle type hooks that have a wire guard on it or have a plastic guard on it to keep them weedless. I think it's important because there's just everything to get caught on out here. So you need to make sure you're throwing some kind of weedless hook, in my opinion. It'll just save you some time. So other jigs. So I've got one that is a non-football head jig, and you see this is kind of in a bluegill color. So I'm throwing this in the bluegill colors. It's got a big salty trailer on there from Zoom. I like a nice compact bait to throw into the beds. I want this bait to look like it's some type of threat to the bed. And if they decide to pick it up, I don't want to have all those big claws coming off it from some of the baits. They can pick it up by a claw and carry it away. I want them to put this thing in their mouth. So for me, I try to go with these more compact trailers this time of year. I'm not throwing this out on a big offshore hump and dragging it. This is something that I'm just throwing in the bed, around the beds. And then, of course, I always go to, and look, and these colors can double up. So these are bluegill colors, and I also have the black and blue colors. It just depends on the clarity of the water. Now, this is a 3/4 ounce football head jig that I do the same thing with. Now, I'll tell you what this one's for, though. When I can't get a fish to bite, and it's locked to its bed, it's not biting, it keeps looking at the different lures I set, I take this big lure in there and I'm going to put it across the back of that bed, and I'm going to wait till that fish gets right in between me and this lure, and I'm going to pull this bait, I'm going to clock him right upside the head. I'm going to try to hit him right in this cheekbone right here. I want him to see it coming, and then I'll be able to gauge pretty quickly if this is going to work or not. I mean, it just pisses him off. I say this many times. I'm trying to remind him that he's a bass. His job is to freaking protect that nest, and this is a threat. And he's a bass. He shouldn't be afraid of things. He should be the aggressor in all these situations. So remind him he's a bass sometimes if that doesn't work. So, and then also, now look, I said the same thing last year, and I do the same thing. I've got this bait. This is a bait that I throw. It's a creature bait. I'll show it on here, but I don't say what it is. I'm not sponsored by anybody, and I catch a lot of fish on it. If you really want to find out what it is, you can come fishing with me. So I'll just say that much. And but that creature bait again, that's what I just caught this fish on right here, was that creature bait. And I worked it in his bed. You know, he's looking at it. You give it what I call the hard rattle, where I'm just really, really hard rattling the bottom of the rod, get some vibration. You can see all those little tentacles on there start moving around, and it's enough to make him come over and get the bite. So that's exactly what he did. And then, look, you know, kind of a standby here. This is a V&M, you know, bait. You know, hold it, looks exactly almost like this Zoom bait, right? So you got a fluke and you got the V&M bait. They're almost exactly the same. If you notice both these baits, though, one of the things, I've got the tails dyed chartreuse color, you can see on there. So now, look, I throw these a couple different ways. I throw them on just a tiny little split shot rig. I throw them on a mini Carolina rig that's got like a 12-foot leader on it, and I throw this on a full Carolina rig that's got a 3.5 foot leader on there. So it just depends if I'm fishing from 2 feet out to 12 feet of water when I'm doing this. I've been catching fish just the other day between 2 feet and 12 feet of water in the same day. So these fish are all the way between spawning. I think there's pre-spawn fish. This fish I just caught, he didn't have any kind of blood on his tail at all. He's just getting started. I know he's just getting started because I've been fishing along this area for a while, and I've already caught some that were spawning. I caught some out away from here that had some post-spawn. Look to him, you know, the tail's got a little blood on it. So you can catch a fish right now in all 3 of the phases of the spawn, no doubt. And that's probably going to be going on, I think, for the next at least 3 weeks. So people keep saying that I just wrote my article for the Lake Fork Area News, and I said, look, it's hard to say exactly how far along the spawn is, but from what I'm seeing, it's been going on. We probably through this first kind of like moon phase of it, but we have another moon phase coming up. I fully anticipate the spawn to go on into May. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think's gonna happen. This fish is brand new. I just caught April the 27th, so he's gonna bed at least 2 weeks probably until his fish hatch. And I've seen along this area, I've seen some females in at least the 8-pound class, in this area. So some of them could have been bigger, but I didn't catch any of them right here. But they were very, very spookish around that. But and then let's see, let's talk about what else. And then jerk baits. I won't show it, but look, windy points. We've had all this wind, windy point fishing. There's plenty of people catching fish out on the points right now. I mean, anywhere between 4 and 10 to 12 feet of water. I had one friend that really locked down on him one day in the 12 feet of water, and he caught a bunch of 4 or 5 pounders. Really good fishing for his clients. And just got right to where some beds. Got right into where some shad were moving through the area, and they were probably pre-spawners back there catching. So, well, I'm not going to keep this too much longer, but the bottom line is, hopefully, I'm going to be back up on my weekly reports. I think this is going to work now that I've got I think I've got my software issues, done. But just as a bottom line here, the lake is still low. It's come up about a half a foot since we had some rain. It was 407 today, and like I said, I'm seeing temperatures between 75, which is right now. But look, I'm sitting in 75-degree water, and there's a fish on bed 15 feet, 20 feet away from me right now. So, the fish can spawn as early as, February, March. And I got to tell you, just one quick thing. I saw some baby bass out here at one spot that were in the 3 to 4 inch range. Like, they had to spawn early. Those had to be really early spawners, because those fish aren't from last year. They had to be from this year, and those were that was about 3 weeks ago. So there had been obviously some fish spawning even though it was colder. Talking either sub 60 degrees, that we could see on the temperature, because to get to that point where it was when I was watching them, we hadn't had any really warm water over 60 for a while. The temperature was just hitting 60 when I was seeing those, because I started hitting some of these spots when I saw the temperatures in the 60 range. So anyway, look, again, I'm Greg Hill. Thanks for following me and watching me here on YouTube. I hope you follow my channel. Of course, you can go to my website, www.foblakefort.com. You can follow my Facebook, follow my Instagram. I try to give updates on everything, what's going on here. And hopefully through the year, I can kind of pass on some fishing information, and send me a message. Any other specific things you guys want to see in a video, just let me know. But look, I'm having a great time out here fishing, having a great time with some clients. Really caught some great fish already this year. Broke a lot of good personal bests for a lot of my clients. I've got a lot of dates open in May, so if you guys are want to come out and do some fishing, I think the fishing is going to be great in May still, and just it was last year. So send me a message on my email. Go to my website, send an email. You can call me. Call me at 972-824-4774 and send me a message. But anyway, hey, you guys take care and have a great day fishing.